me, or I'll do something. Somebody will tell me, will give me a larger
All right,
purpose.
good evening, Earth,
It's
or
really
late afternoon. This is Adam Sturch broadcasting from the Mushroom Mansion Taos, New Mexico. Starting a new oil painting. Still kind of debating the title. It's got a loose concept, and the title I think I want to base off of the Noam Chomsky saying, phrase, that education is a system of imposed ignorance. So I think I'm going to call it imposed ignorance, and I'm going to set up sort of a classroom scene where all of the students as well as the teachers are sort of nightmarish deformities. So yeah, here we go.
So the cost of sanity in this society is a certain level of alienation. I grapple with this because I'm a parent. And I think anybody who has children, you come to this realization, what'll it be? Alienated, cynical intellectual, or slack-jawed, half-wit consumer of the horse shit being handed down from on high? There is not much choice in there, you see, and we all want our children to be well-adjusted. It's unfortunately there's nothing to be well-adjusted to, so that's a real problem. Yeah. Yeah, I think, well, and I really believe that extra-environmentalism, which is a nicer, though longer word for alienation, is defensible and shouldn't be thought of as pathological. What I noticed in going to the Amazon and Indonesia and these places is that the person you want to get to is the shaman. But the shaman is different from everybody else. Like when you go into an Amazonian tribe that's way upriver or something, the people behave the way you would expect naive, untraveled people to behave. They want to touch your Gore-Tex and, look at your camera and look through the binoculars and fiddle with the can opener and all this. No shaman would ever stoop to such behavior. A shaman knows that cultures are provisional and is interested in you as a person. The other people don't even see you as a person because you're huge, white, strange smelling, and incomprehensible. The shaman sees you as a person, and it's because he is alienated. The reason shamans can do their magic is because they are outside the belief system. I really think that that's true. Everyone else believes, that the guy in the other village can send the mojo and mess with you. The shaman knows that that's not quite how it works. And so then he, as it were, can go behind the board and fix the cultural TV that everybody else is just watching. So I think alienation, extra-environmentalism, shamanism, whatever you want to call it, is simply individualism in the context of cultures that don't value individualism. And cultures don't. It's said nature acts to preserve the species. Cultures act to preserve the illusions of the population. They're not interested in you if you're an Einstein or a Jackson Pollock, or unless they can fit you in to the pre-established systems of commerce and canons of aesthetic order and so forth and so on. And then that's called being civilized. Okay? Anything else? Yeah.
You mentioned something about this craze on looking for frogs.
I don't think I did, but if you say I did, I did. Oh, could I? Well, yes, let me explain. The question is, what's with licking frogs? I'm not sure I got it right, but, well, you kiss a lot of frogs before you find a prince, and you probably lick a lot more. Toads, not frogs. Let's give the devil his due here. Toads of certain species produce a relative of DMT in large glands in their necks. Why this is not clear, considering that this exudate, or this material, will kill a dog if a dog picks up a toad like that in his mouth within minutes. It's pretty spectacular. It's reasonable to suppose that then this is just a defense that has been evolved. Some of you may have seen the dinosaur in Jurassic Park that spits poison in your face. We're talking something like that. The toad creates this this 5-methoxy-DMT in this gland, and when the glands are squeezed, it comes out on the surface of the toad's skin. It's a near relative of DMT. Speaking from my personal battery of many prejudices, I would say I don't care for it. It complicates my job enormously, because people do this stuff and they think A, that it is DMT, or B, if they're slightly better informed, that it's just like DMT. It is in fact chemically called 5-methoxy-DMT. However, it is nothing like DMT. It's as much like DMT as radio is like television. And that's where the difference lies. The 5-MeO does not trigger the most spectacular effect associated with DMT, which is these three-dimensional crawling hallucinations that come out of the woodwork and reveal the true nature of reality to you. When you take 5-MeO DMT, you have all of the physical presentation of DMT. There's a sense of a kind of light anesthesia through the limbs. There's a sense of falling forward into a void. There's a sense of losing body boundary. Now, at that point in DMT, those symptoms would give way to the trip. At that point in 5-MeO DMT, those symptoms give way to the beginning of the come down. And if people who have never taken DMT sometimes rave about 5-MeO and say, this was the most astonishing thing I've ever had in me. People who are familiar with DMT can yawn their way all the way through it, because you're braced for the DMT thing. I mean, you think, oh my God, it feels just like it. Here it comes. It's going to be upon me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Plus 1, plus 2, plus 3, plus 4, plus 5. It's not coming in. It doesn't come in. And so, and then 5-MeO is fatal in sheep as well as dogs, spectacularly fatal in sheep. And so I guess if you're a sheep, it's counterindicated. Doesn't seem to be harmful in human beings, but with so little data available, maybe we should, there are old psychedelicists and bold psychedelicists, but there are no old, bold psychedelicists. And there might be a few. Of course, getting them to speak ordinary English is a real challenge. Don't point at me. I'm a child, a mere stripling. Okay. Well, anybody else? We can do this till doomsday. I may never get to my agenda. Not to discourage you. Well, yeah. Have I had any contact with the government? Not well, up until a week ago, the answer to this question was yes. I mean, no. When I got home from Esalen the last time, there was a really funny letter, which I haven't quite figured out how to respond to. Dear Mr. McKenna, I'm an officer of the California State Police. fascinated with DMT and recently read the interview with you in the San Francisco Chronicle. I wonder if you would be willing to meet with me and have coffee so we can discuss this at your earliest possible convenience. So, what I did was fairly chicken shit, actually. I found a copy of Food of the Gods and I sent it off and I said, this is my latest book, or this is a book of mine that deals in part with DMT. Give it a quick read, and if you're still interested in a get-together, call me. So once you establish that you're an intellectual, they just harmless, a nut of some sort. Yeah, now I'm a rapper. Now I'm making Leary's mistake, the 25-year-old, the 15 to 25-year-old crowd. But I've got news for you. Next year, Invisible Landscape is coming out. It was the book my brother and I originally wrote. And when that book comes out, all my books will be in the public domain, or, available. Sound Photosynthesis has at least 70 of my tapes. Dolphin Tapes has 40 more. Then there's a scattering of other people with a few. I am not going to do this till Hell freezes over. I have a whole other plan for myself. And I think also, once you crusade for 10 years, if you haven't captured Jerusalem, you better go back to farming in Provence. And that's more or less metaphorically what I intend to do. Pardon me? No, I'll tell you some of my plans briefly, because it doesn't relate to this. 220 species of trilobite occur in the shales of southern Bohemia. I plan to go to Prague and organize the peasants of Bohemia to collect these various species of trilobites, ship them into a central warehouse in Prague while we will identify, photograph them, and issue a very high-end catalog for collectors of rare fossils. And I will become the trilobite maven of Prague 6 and disappear from this domain, because I think I've said all I have to say. I mean, not today, thank God, but in the course of doing all this, yeah.
I mean, a real central point for thinkers and poets and radical ideas to kind of coalesce and be the fulcrum to kind of bring this country into a new wow. I think that's it.
Well, I think that the greatest period of American creativity in literature and in other areas too, arguably, was in the 20th century, was the 20s. And that's because an expatriate community conducted a critique of American society from a foreign vantage point, in that case, Paris. And I think that in spite of the Clinton hiatus, that the politics of light have not yet come to settle on the land of Jefferson, and that we should be prepared on a moment's notice, basically, to decamp to Prague and conduct all this from there. Also, Prague was the capital of European civilization before the 30 Years' War, before the rise of modern science. It's an Italianate city, untouched by either world war. It's a beautiful place. I don't like the part of what I do that is a cult of personality. I don't like it that a white guy sits at the front of the room and pontificates. And I don't know if you've figured out this shuffle, but I have, and I know that I don't know anything more than you know, really. And that it's just a funny circumstance of fate that you sit and listen and I speak, because there are no experts, and there is only the integrity of doing and having done. And really, if you get the message, you will be able to transcend the need for any more of this, because it's really a message of self-trust and self-empowerment. And then what I'm also trying to create is a community of shared associations about these weird states, so that we don't have to all privately think we're losing our marbles. You know, let those who talk to the elves find each other and band together. I am not I am basically a scientist without portfolio, because no academic institution would ever trust me with a portfolio. But I move in the domain of the gurus, the channelers, the pontificators, and those with secret revealed knowledge from Atlantis and Lemuria. But I have contempt for all of that, whether it's true or not, because they got there the wrong way. You know, you have to come through the rules of evidence and reason. Reason is not science. Don't confuse them. I'm very much a critic of science and the scientific method, but I don't think reason can be tossed out with that bathwater. What is being proposed here is that we're on the brink of the discovery of another world, a world as potentially transforming of our world as the discovery of the Western Hemisphere transformed European civilization in the 1500s. But the world that we're about to discover is inside the mind. It's mental real estate. We who have made consciousness our game by building cities, elaborating literatures, tossing up religions, and setting armies marching, we who have made consciousness our game have barely scratched the surface of human consciousness. And it's not like we haven't had a crack at it. I mean, these yogins have been over there digging away for millennia. Egyptian religion, Kabbalism, alchemy, Western traditions of mysticism, and I am a connoisseur of all that, don't get me wrong, but what astonishes me is how embryonic it all is. We are not the tired inheritors of an ancient and sophisticated civilization in its twilight, which is what they're all telling us. We are the know-nothing, fresh scrubbed babes who are the new kids on the block who haven't got a clue as to what the human enterprise could really be about. And we are coming now through a very narrow historical neck where the accumulated stupidity of the last 5,000 years, the dues now have to be paid. It ain't fair. We didn't do it. You know, we didn't bring the slaves from Africa. We didn't invent oligarchy. We didn't do all these things. Nobody's interested in our whining about how we didn't do it. It's in your face. And it's clearly a crisis of two things, of consciousness and of conditioning. These are the two things that the psychedelics attack. We have the technological power, the engineering skills to save our planet, to cure disease, to feed the hungry, to end war, but we lack the intellectual vision, the ability to change our minds. We must decondition ourselves from 10,000 years of bad behavior. And it's not easy. I mean, imagine, I don't know how many of you have ever confronted the fact that you were addicted to something. And some addictions are really serious. If you've ever been addicted to tobacco or heroin, I'm sure you know what I mean. Well, then imagine a global population addicted to a drug, the use of which is killing us, But we can't, there's no doctor saying you should, there's no rehab clinic to go to when you're a species. We are on an absolutely destructive bender that will end with the death of the earth, the impoverishment of its animal and plant population, and the collapse of our civilization into scarcity unless we can somehow restructure our psychology and get hold of ourselves. And psychedelics are the only thing I've ever seen work on an individual level to do that. In the early 60s, they were curing 75% of chronic alcoholism cases that they treated with LSD. They were curing with one dose of LSD, one 500 microgram dose. Well, now obviously, LSD is not a magic bullet for alcoholism. That's a preposterous idea. It's simply that you take LSD, and if you're a chronic alcoholic, you review your life and you notice that you're killing yourself. And then you say, my God, I am killing myself. If I don't stop what I'm doing, I will be dead. That's the strongest motivation to character rehabilitation.
All right, so what that does is create a whole lot of work, because that is a fucking mess. But it generally hacks in the forms of kids in a classroom or figures in a classroom being taught by a giant blood-sucking spider. Right on. So I'm gonna let that dry, and then we'll get to work on detailing all of the figures and fleshing out the forms and lights and darks and colors and such. But I think that's it for the moment, probably it for the day. Just kind of taking a mellow day, cleaning up the house and myself and things like that. Built a new Strassman, if anybody's interested in his lectures, very good lecture on the solar prophecy, DMT and the solar prophecy. So have a good day, Earth. Thanks for watching. It's Adam Sturch broadcasting from the Mushroom Mansion's house, New Mexico, working on oil painting imposed ignorance.
Make something of ourselves. Extend the design process to human destiny and